Hello again, and welcome to Art Journaling Adventures for Beginners with Lisa. Today we are on episode 6 of Art Journaling Adventures with tags, and I feel like I have to start each of these tag videos with talking about what am I talking about tags and why am I talking about tags. So this is a tag. They come in all shapes and sizes. And they are used for all kinds of things in industry, but they are also used a lot in the crafting world. And I love using them for small art projects. They're great for making cards, obviously gift tags, but what I ended up doing just recently, and I had so much fun with it, which is why I'm sharing this with everybody, is I made a journal out of it. And I would love to show it to you, but it's at a museum right now, at an art center, but it looks kind of like this, only longer, because it would be tags. So you take tags and you decorate them, and then you can put a piece of paper somewhere on them so that you can write on them, and it creates this really special, unique journal. I like tags because they're very small, and I can finish a tag project in 20 minutes. So it's really a great way to spend just a few minutes being creative and not feeling like I have the pressure of filling a whole page. The objective of this whole series is to show you how you can enjoy art journaling, first of all, without having any ability to be artistic. You know, this whole idea of being artistic has kept me from doing things artistically for most of my life. So this is just playing with stuff. And the second thing is that you can do it with regular materials you have around the house. So every episode I will share with you things that I'm using, that everything that I'm using is something that is around my house. I did not buy it. So I'm not even building my tags on a tag. I did a whole separate video on things that you can use around the house to build your tags on. Today we are finishing up our fourth and final template. In the last video, we created side 1 of this template, which was a focal point piece, and the writing component is inside. So it's this little door that you can do your art journaling, do your regular journaling on. Because I used anything around my house, this happens to be a beautiful print that was on a tissue box. And I cut it right out of the tissue box. I don't know how the tissues are going to stay in there until they're gone, but I really loved this pattern with this little guy that I found in a magazine. Today we are going to cover the back of this, and if you're like me and you're grabbing stuff from the house, you might have a back that doesn't look so pretty. So today we're going to talk about how to cover the back and make it look pretty, and there's a whole bunch of ways you can do this. What do you need to get going today? Again, the materials are going to be really simple. You need a pair of scissors. If you have an exacto knife, they're really great. A ruler, a pencil, a hole punch. This costs $1, so this you may have to go buy it. White glue, if you have it. This is a crafter's glue, but you can use this or Elmers. And finally, glue stick. This is great if you're a beginner. Just stick with glue stick. It's completely fine. It works great, and you don't have to worry about spending a lot of money on buying specialty glues, because really you don't need specialty glues. Alrighty, all that being said, let's get going. So somebody asked me, how do I start my projects? Do I plan it all out? What do I do? And what I actually do, oh, wait a minute, let's talk about, well, you know what? I'm going to go do it the way I was going to do it. So when I plan a project, for example, a tag, and I say, okay, I know I'm going to create a tag journal, so I want to pick a color theme, and that theme is going to stay with me throughout the whole journal. We started this series with this tag, and it's yellow, blue, and green, and some blacks. So I decided that that would be the color choices for all the rest of my tags. I'm going to stay in the yellow, green, blue with a hint of black in all of my tags. Getting ready to do this one, I went around my house. I was like, what's blue? And that's how I found this gorgeous tissue box. Blue, really pretty, love it. So it came up to my room where I do my artwork. Some of the other things I collected, this is the inside of an envelope, a security envelope, like a check would come in. They have really cool patterns in them. Hold on to those. This is an envelope from a card somebody sent me, and it actually is the card that went with the front. Tissue paper is a great cover for some of your papers. These are dividers for a calendar book. Here's one that I can't wait to use. In fact, I think I might use this on the cover. It says good stuff inside, and I don't even know who sent this to me, but I love both sides of this. It's gorgeous. So literally, you can use all kinds of stuff around your house. What are you going to need for this project? Besides your standard stuff, you are going to need some prints. Those are going to be your inside of your liners. They are going to be your envelopes, your cards, all the things that I just showed you. Just go around and look at things you already have, or start collecting them and plan to do this project in a week. And I start like a box. So this is the blue stuff that I'm going to use for this project. So I've got lots of odds and ends of blue and yellow and green prints in here that I've collected up. All right. Then I know I have lots of things to play with, all right? So you're going to need a couple of patterned, 2 to 3 patterned pieces, and they should be some large patterns. For example, this to me is a larger pattern compared to this, which is a small pattern. So this is very tiny, this one is bigger. So you're going to look for patterns of different scale, is the word they use, all right? You also are going to want maybe a word or a phrase. So I really like this Find Your Way. I like the word courageous, mostly because I'm thinking about this little boy is the cover that I'm using. If you like certain words and you see them in a magazine, or you want to type it up and print it off from your computer, that's fine. So you can use words and quotes. And then you're also going to look for little embellishments. So this is a stamp. I don't even know what this came from. It's a little bunch of pears. Here's the word courage. I have some, these are Post-it notes that are little like place mark Post-it notes. They're really fun to use. You are just going to look for, here's a little tiny butterfly. So this is my little tiny things. And your little tiny things should be like an inch or smaller, like the size, think of a stamp. If you keep a stamp in mind, you want little tiny things that are smaller than a stamp. And those are going to be your embellishments. So you're going to add those at the end. All right, so we have our pattern papers. We have some quotes maybe. We have some little tiny things. And then you're also going to need a full-size piece of paper. I have my paper here. Where did I put my piece of paper? I have my piece of paper here somewhere. You're going to need a full-size piece of paper. It needs to be at least 9 inches long. I love using paper that's colored, so I tend to buy pads that are blue or pink or green. This one happens to have a gold leaf edge, which I love. You probably can't see it, but it's really pretty when it's closed. And it has a brown stripe, a little bit of a brown stripe in it, but I like that with this colors scheme that I'm using. All right, so those are the things that you need. Let's get building this final side of tag number 2. What your tag is going to end up looking like is this. We are going to put a band of a pattern across the top. We will cover, if your back is like this, we'll cover the back. Then you can add another print on top of it. We're going to put a couple little embellishments on here, and then we are going to glue a piece of paper in here, and I'm going to show you how to make this a little pocket so that your paper can go tuck under there. So this is the end product that we're going to be building. The template for this looks like this. So if you want to take a screenshot of that, we're going to use line paper. We're going to put a pattern across the top. We may use a second little embellishment and a second little pattern down here, or words. The size pattern template that I have been using for this tag is approximately 3 by 6. So the measurements that I'm going to give you during this video and all the videos are based on a tag that is 3 inches by 6 inches approximately. The first thing that I'm going to do, because this is brown, is I am going to choose a backing for it, and I'm going to choose a backing based on the front. So think of your tag as a room where if the front of it's blue, you know, if you have a blue couch, you're not suddenly going to put like some kind of weird color rug in there that doesn't go, all right? So since this is blues and yellows and greens, my back needs to be blues, yellow, and greens. I pulled out a couple patterns of things that I have that I thought I might like to use. I like this one with it because it's bigger. So this is a smaller pattern than this, so that's good. I'm going bigger. What I don't like about this is I can't use this whole print. It's got this little hill on it. I loved having him walking on it, but I decided not to use that. So I like it, but I'm not going to use that. Here's a smaller print. This one's okay. I don't know why, but for some reason I don't like it. The pattern that I've chosen is the safety paper, because it's this exact same color of green. It's a smaller print, and I just like them together. To me, there's a feeling of, I don't know, it's kind of comfortable. All I'm going to do is trace a piece of this, cut a piece of this that's 3 inches by 6 inches. So if you need to cover the back of your tag or want to cover the back of your tag, the first thing you're going to do is cut a piece of paper that is going to cover your tag. I tend to like to mark my tag where it is, and then measure it and cut it a little bit bigger, because I'm not real exact, which is one of the things I love about art journaling. Not real exact about how big it is. If I cut it a little bigger, then it just overlaps a little bit and I can trim it. So this is where I marked at the top of my thing was. I'm just going to go a little bit bigger than that. I'm going to line it up on my handy dandy mat here, and that shows me where. So I'm going to line it up with this line. That's where I should cut, and I'm going to move it down and just cut just a little bit ahead of that. And if you have your exacto knife, metal ruler, really fast. And I marked it here. Again, I'm going to line that up on my mat just because it's easy. And make my cut here. And again, this shape that I'm cutting is approximately 3 by 6. I'm cutting it a little bigger, so then I can trim it off when I'm done. I've cut these before, and then I trim it what I think is the exact same size, and then the paper's too small, and then I have to find another whole piece of paper because this was the only piece of paper I had that I liked. Therefore, I now cut things a little bit bigger. And now I have, I got a problem down here, but that's all right. So that's great that happened, because I can show you that it doesn't matter. Peel that off a little bit. The next thing to do is glue this on, and I am going to use glue stick is fine. If you have white glue, that's okay too. Be very generous with your glue stick. So to make sure that you really get enough on there to hold it on, because it's going to get, you know, it's like a page, so it's going to get turned a lot. It's going to get mangled a lot. You know, you're going to be flipping it over and doing stuff with it. So make sure you put plenty of glue stick on there, especially near the edges, to assure that it sticks well. Now I cut this, left a little white thing on there by accident. I'm going to make sure I get this green down to the bottom so that hopefully I can cut off most of that white, and it'll hide under that other pattern piece that I'm using. So this is covered. Let's see how close I came. Oh, see? Too big. That's okay. It doesn't matter because I can trim it off. But that way I didn't make it too small and not be able to use it. And here's a little bit on the top. And go ahead and re-punch your hole so that you don't get too many layers, because we'll be gluing something else on top of that. So just re-punch the hole, line your hole punch up with the hole that was there from the last episode, and punch it again. We now have our background. We're going to build everything else on that today. You can stick that to one side. The next thing I think we're going to do is get our paper ready, and that way it'll be all done. With your lined paper, if you don't want to use lined paper, you don't have to. I just like to use lined paper. You are going to need a strip. If you're using a 3x5, a 3x6 tag, you are going to need a piece of paper that is 2.5 inches wide by 9 inches long. If for whatever reason you don't have 9 inches, don't worry about it. If you want it less than 2.5 inches, I wouldn't do too much less than 2.5 inches on a 3-inch wide card, but that's the size paper that you need. I cut it so that you didn't have to watch me cut my paper. So it's already done, but you need 2.5 by 9 inches long. I would recommend, unfortunately, I wasn't thinking clearly, I would recommend, frequently on paper you've got this edge that has no lines. I would recommend cutting that off first and then measuring your 2.5 inches. Otherwise you have this gap that you can't write on. I frequently forget to do that, but since I'm talking about it. All right, the next thing you're gonna do with this piece of paper is you're gonna fold it, and the folding is not in half. You want to make sure that one side is a little bit lower, so I'm gonna say 3/8 of an inch from the top. For our purposes, fortunately I have this little line here, so I'm gonna line the edge of this bottom up with that line. Oops, and then I'm gonna fold it at the bottom. And there's a reason we're doing that, and I'll show you later. But it's not, the two pieces are not the same. The one side is shorter than the other side. See that? This side is shorter than this side. And it doesn't need to be a lot shorter, but it does need to be shorter. And we're going to set that aside. The next thing we are going to do is choose the banner for our top. And it's going to end up being a pocket. So we're going to choose a pattern like to put across the top. This should be approximately 1.25 inches. See? Approximately 1.25 inches. So you want it 1.25 inches deep by 3.25, 3.5 inches wide, just so you have enough. I looked at a bunch of prints that I had for this, and I went back to some of the ones that I threw away. Didn't really like that too much. Kind of like this one, but I don't think I like it with the front as much. I feel like I want something a little more interesting. And that's how I ended up with, I just love this with the front. I've got the flowers and the yellow and the bicycle, and this just looks like a happy day. And I am going to choose to use this on top of this. Now, little side note, this is an envelope. It's kind of a cheapy envelope too, so it's kind of thin. And it also has the licky stuff here. I'm sure that's the technical name for that, the licky stuff. Anyway, since this is thin, if you're using a piece of a magazine or a very thin paper, I would recommend gluing anything behind it just so it's a little bit thicker and got a little more body to it, because it's going to be a pocket and it's going to get a little bit of wear. I am just going to find something that I have in my stash here. And you know what? I'm just going to use another piece of this safety paper and glue it to the back of this, only to give it thickness. It doesn't matter what it is. You can use plain line paper, typing paper, whatever. Really doesn't matter. So I'm just going to line this. And it needs to be, I need a piece that is 1.25 inches by 3.5. Got glue all over the place there. Glue stick is flying here. 1.25 inches. So let's make sure we just put enough of that on there. All right. Oh yeah, that's much better. That's got a much better weight to it. All righty. So I need 1.25 inches. Let me see where 3 inches is. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to mark 3.5. Like I said, I'm going to mark 3.5 so that it gives me room for error. So I'm starting here. 3.5 is here. And then I'm marking 1.25 up from the bottom. And that is here. And 1.25 up from the bottom. It's right here. And then I'm going to cut it. So you can go ahead and cut yours at 1.25 by 3.5. And I have a feeling I'm going to use a little more of this envelope, so I'm going to keep it close by. And now I'm going to trim this extra green off because I don't want it to show at all. Something you can do too, I love doing this, is just, and I'll just go ahead and do it just so you can see. It's a little hard for me to do this because it's a little wet from the glue stick. But I'm not even going to use a scissor on this. I am going to tear it, and that will give me just a really different look. And it's not so fussy. I used to be really fussy about trying to create anything, and it prevented me from doing art at all. And now I love art journaling because it just taught me to just be relaxed about it. All right, so this just needs to be this wide. So that's plenty wide enough. Go ahead and cut this off, and then I'll show you what to do once we get it close. There we go. So here's my piece. It's got kind of a raggedy edge. I really like that raggedy edge. Just feels kind of fun. And since that little guy is so, I love the little guy on the other side. He's just like out having a carefree, happy-go-lucky day. So this, if you used glue stick, you might be having a little trouble tearing that. If you used, wait for it to dry, it'll tear better. It's not going to tear real well if it's wet. All right, we are now ready to attach this. Here's the little bit tricky part. First, I'm going to cut it the right size. So I'm just going to flip this over, and that shows me that this little piece is too big, and I can trim it. Alrighty. Here's the only tricky part about this whole project. We are only going to glue 3 sides. You're going to put glue on this side, on the top side, and on the bottom side, and this bottom piece is not going to get glued. All right. Before we glue this on, I'm going to ask you to place it on your tag, and you're going to put, with your pencil, a very, very light mark, tracing the bottom center. I'm not going all the way to the edge. I'm just tracing this bottom center piece very lightly. I don't know if you can see that, but I traced it really lightly. And that is going to show me where I'm gluing my lined paper. That's the next thing we're going to do. All right, take your lined paper, and you're going to add glue stick to it. I've got glue all over my surface here. Let me clean this off because I'm having it sticking. All right, you are going to take the short side. Remember, we have a short side. We folded it not in half. We have a short side and a long side. You're going to glue the short side only to the fold. Here's the fold. You're going to put glue stick only on the short side to the fold. So go ahead, be generous, get lots of glue on there, especially down right next to the fold. Don't go over the fold, but get lots of glue stick on there. And where you left that little tracing mark, you're going to place the short side that you put the glue on just over top of the line that you traced. So mine's kind of, because my edge is torn, it's kind of all over. So I'm just going to go up to the top here. And you're going to cover, actually cover just a little bit, like 1/4 inch, cover the place that your pencil is. So here's my pencil mark right there, and here I'm just covering the pencil mark. If you cover it a lot, don't worry about it. It's not that big of a deal. And you want to center it side to side. So it should look like this. Oh my gosh, my work surface is so gluey. Holy moly. Everything is sticking to it. I think my fingers are glued too. All right, this is what it should look like when you're done. So we didn't glue past the fold. We are now ready to glue our piece across the top. And you are going to use just a tiniest bit of glue along the very, very edge. All right. If you have white glue, it's probably going to be a little bit easier. It's kind of hard to do this exact with, oh my. Oh, I pulled my cap off of my glue. That's why it's making such a mess. There we go. Just going to put a little bit along the edge here. I'll show you once I've gotten it on. Not a lot. See, it's very narrow. And across the top. The top is not as important as it's so narrow, but the sides are really important that it's just a little strip of glue. All right, and you want to put a little extra in the center where because it's going to cover where your hole is. So see, that lines up with where my hole punch is. And I want a little glue around there so that when I have to hole punch this again, I want to make sure that there's glue around the edges of that. And we're going to glue this all the way up to the top. And you should only be gluing the sides. This side, the top, and this side should be glued. The centers, you can see mine's doing a nice job. I've got a little pocket there. You can see that it's open. So that's what we're doing. We're creating this little pocket. And we're just going to let that sit and dry. And now we're going to talk embellishment. So what are we going to add to this? We're going to add some of our smaller things. So I mentioned that I probably was going to use more of this envelope. This envelope has a really cute border on it. So I cut a piece of that out. And I'm going to look at my box of little tiny things. I love the idea of a stamp because he's taking a trip. I think he's just off wandering. So I love the stamp. I got a couple stamps, but I think I like that darker one better. I love this Find Your Way because he's off doing his thing. I love this. This is like 4 little pairs. I don't know where that came from, but I think that's adorable. Might use that. Here's another butterfly. I love using butterflies in my artwork. I have these are these Post-it notes. These are nice little prints, so I might use something like that. And that's probably enough for me to think about. I've got a little piece of a puzzle here. He doesn't seem to be puzzled, so I'm not going to use the puzzle. But that's if you got an old puzzle that's missing pieces, instead of throwing it away, hold on to it and you can use it. Here's a button. He might have lost a button, so I might be inclined to put a button on this piece. I don't like this white button. If I had a dark blue button or something that was bright or fun, I might put that on it. But this button doesn't inspire me, so I'm not going to use it. All right, so I've got all these little things. These are my little things, and you should always just start collecting little things that are stamp size or smaller. So check out your tea, your cookies, your packages, your mail. There's always little things on stuff. Magazines, if you get any magazines, they have great little things. I think I'm going to wait for that to dry. So let's decide where I'm going to put stuff first. All right. I really like this as an embellishment on here. So I think I'm going to cut some pieces and kind of make a cross. I might make that a couple times. We'll see. I could also use this. I kind of wish that wasn't stuck yet because I could play with that. I don't like that with that, so we're not using that at all. Put that away. I like to catch this before it sticks too much because I might want to stick stuff under there. Like I might want this edge. See, I like that edge like right under there just a little bit. All right, so I'm going to lift that up a little bit before it gets really... If you've white glued it already, don't worry about it. You can just trim it. All righty. I know I'm going to glue this across here. I think I'm going to use this darker stamp, and I'm going to put it off to the side. I kind of like it tipped to the side like that. I definitely want this Find Your Way, so I'm going to put that on top. And maybe this butterfly. Oh yes, I like how that's coming together. Let's go ahead and put this little stripe on. And so you didn't have to wait for me to do this. I cut some pieces already. Yep. The way I like to do this, I'll show you this first strip. I like to line it up where I want it. So I say, yep, that's where I want it. I put some glue on the back. I go back and stick it on here and I line the corner up. And then I can stick it on. And now I'm just going to stick that back on because it's got glue stick stuck to it. And I can trim this off. Oops, got stuff stuck to my scissors too. It's like a sticky glue day. Oh, didn't get the glue stick far enough on this little piece. And I love that. Love that, love that, love that. And I think I'm going to want another piece. Sticking over here on this side maybe. This is just a piece of this I happen to have. Yep, I'm going to do that. So I'm going to cut this so the angle is better. There we go. And so I'm not even putting it under. I'm adding it after. Don't even have to put it under. All right, let's put some glue on there. You can glue this underneath. If you put it underneath, you're going to have a bump when you go to write. So that's why it's better to cut it to the edge. And I think I'm going to run this all the way through to the other side. Let's cut this little piece. I had a couple little pieces here, so I'm cutting that instead. Uh-oh, wrong way. And let's just eyeball it here. We don't have to be perfect. We're not Patty perfect today. I don't know who we can be. Susie Sketchy came to mind, but I don't think that's a good idea. But we definitely don't need to be Patty perfect. So I'm going to just cut that little edge off. You can do this. You don't have to do this. I tend to keep going with my art. I just keep adding stuff. And let's kind of lined up. That looks good enough. Nope, needs to come down just a little bit. I'm famous for having glue stuck all over my fingers. There we go. I like that. Trim this off. Now, if you had prints, for example, let's go back and talk about a couple of prints just in case you were trying to use a print on this. Here's a print I could have used. You could cut a piece of this print. I'll cut it off so you can see. And much like our template from the day before, you can put just a little tag of paper under here on the corner, just like this. All right. In this case, I might use this same yellow because that looks really cute. Because it's matchy-matchy. All right, so I could put that yellow on the bottom, and that would look really cute. So you can just cut a little strip, maybe, think of stamp size, a stamp size piece, and it would go under this, though. That's the only thing, is you don't want it on top. And I'll show you why, because you need to be able to open your page. All right, so you want anything you want to put it under this, and then you can flip that back down. All right, I try to work sometimes around it. If I glued it already, I'll just work around it. Alrighty, the last thing we're going to do is add our embellishment to the top, and I'm hoping my glue is dry, so I want to go ahead and do my hole punch again. There we go. Now it's punched all the way through, and because I put glue in there, remember we put a little glue in there, it's nice and stuck, so it's not going to come loose. And let's add my words. You might put another pattern. So again, you might have chosen a pattern up here. Great, let's put a pattern up there. Doesn't have to be a word. You might have, I don't like that, but let's see. What pattern could we use up there? I don't know if I have anything. I don't have anything sitting here. could use this again. This would be cute. So just one more time, use this up here. All right. Or put it this way. Or I could run that across the whole thing. That looks really cute too. So if you have a pattern, you can put a pattern, just again, a stamp size. So this is stamp size. You can put a stamp size piece on here somewhere. All right. I'm going to put this across the side like this. I like that there. And I am going to put your Find Your Way. And I actually took a hole punch and made it already go around my hole there. And the stamp is going to go underneath. And where's my little butterfly? I want to have my butterfly. So I'm going to put the stamp on first. Again, glue stick is just fine. And I am going to do it at an angle. I think I'm going to put glue both. Oh, my glue stick is out. There we go. Put this right here on the corner. Loving it, loving it. And let's trim that off. It's overhanging, so we'll just trim it off. Ah, love it. Where's my word? Oh, I can't find my way. Where did Find My Way go? There it is, way over here. All right, glue stick on my Find Your Way. Get the very last bit out of this glue stick, that's for sure. Find your way. Now you don't want it to overhang the lip of your pocket. That's really important. So like this is a little bit long here. I'm going to have to wait till that, I better tear it before because I'm going to have to tear that off a little bit because it can't overhang the pocket. That's really important. There we go. All right, so now it's not hanging down below this pocket lip. But I did have it overhang my stamp. See, it's covering the stamp, partly covering the stamp right over. And the last thing we'll do is stick this beautiful little butterfly over here on the corner because I imagine this little guy chasing butterflies from the other side. If you could feel my fingers, they are so sticky. Yikes. All right, and here we go. Now, if you like decorating, get some markers out and decorate the edge of this, or if you use, stamp pad stamps, you could put a stamp pad stamp up the side here. That would be fine. You can also decorate this. You could, it would be really cool to put a strip of this up the side. That would be neat. You can put stuff on this. You don't have to. Totally up to you. Here's the magic about this. Your paper slides right under the lip of the pocket and stays closed. So now you have this great, nice long piece that you can write on versus some of the tinier pieces that we've got something stuck to them, versus some of the tinier pieces of paper. So this tag happens to have two really longer pieces of paper that you can write on. This is quite a bit for a tag size journal. And then this is a nice long piece that you can write on. And it just slips right up there underneath, which is why you needed kind of a thicker paper to make your pocket out of. That is the end of your template number 4. So template 4, we used a pattern across the top, we used lined paper, and then we used another pattern or text to embellish along the bottom and possibly up at the top. That's all for this tag. So now you have 4 different tag surfaces that you can enjoy with your tag journal. And in creating it, you can put, this is the first tag front that we did, you can do this tag front and put this template on the back. Or you can use this template and put this one on the back. So you can mix and match all 4 templates and create several different styles of tags for your tag journal. I think that about covers template number 4 and how to make a journal out of tags. So the final episode will be episode 7, and in episode 7 we will make the cover and talk about how to connect them. I hope you have enjoyed making your tag with me today, and I hope you will join me to finish up your tag journal and create the front and back for it. This is Lisa with Art Journaling Adventures for Beginners, and thanks for creating with me.